All right, what's up, everyone? It is a beautiful Wednesday night. We are in October, and we are into the fifth week of the NFL season, and we are lucky enough to have Jawing and Balling on for the first time this NFL season so far. Of course, we got a returning face. We have Amon back. Amon, we have missed you, good sir. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. The show hasn't been back on in a while. I watched the last episode.
Okay, awesome. And then, of course, we have a couple new faces. We have Lamar. This is going to be his first time on Jawing and Balling. Lamar, introduce yourself. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself as far as who's your teams that you typically root for.
Lamar Fields. I'm a sports writer, uh, big Raider fan, Laker fan, and San Francisco Giants fan.
Okay. So you're a Raiders fan. You're a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
So you're a fan of nursing homes, geriatrics, everything like that. That is the Lakers.
Yep.
Okay. And then we got Chris Gonzalez, aka Gonzo, joining the show for the first time. Chris, how are you, good sir?
Oh, doing good, man. Just been doing shows all day.
I know, Chris. For people that don't know and people that don't watch ASAP on a consistent basis, Chris's back truly hurts from having to carry the network for as long as he has. Chris does a little bit of anything and everything. He's a man of many talents, and his back definitely hurts from having to do that. But gents, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic of the night. I picked this mainly because Gonzo, as well as myself, we're both Colts fans, although Gonzo's a little bit more of a Colts fan than I am. The Colts have managed to come to a 1-2-1 record. Their one win being against the Chiefs of all teams, as it currently stands. They have a top 10 offense in the league, but they still have currently a losing record. And there's a lot of reports from Jim Irsay, and especially here in Indianapolis, that Frank Reich is on the hot seat. Do you really think that he deserves the blame? Chris, I'll let you go first since you're our residential Colts fan.
I do think he deserves some of the blame. Our offense, it's hard to believe we have a top 10 offense with the way our offensive line has played. Offensive line has been our big issue, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And defense has just been like in the second half of that game, defense played great. First half, they didn't play terrible. We gave them some short fields with turnovers. Turnovers and offensive line has killed us. I ain't gonna lie, I was so mad after Sunday's game. I wanted Wright fired right then after he didn't have Taylor out there for the last drive of the game, and you see Naeem Hines get blown up twice on pass coverage or pass blocking. But now they're saying it was because of his ankle. But the series before that he was fine, and he got that fumble when he got stripped, and all of a sudden Wright didn't put him back out there. And we've seen Wright do that before when Taylor's had a fumble and keep him out a whole half, and we was winning the game and he got beat. I just think Wright a lot of times manages the game more as an offensive coordinator than he does a head coach, and I think that's what gets him in trouble. And I think his game management is just poor a lot of times. But if they lose the Broncos, I don't think he's gone. But if they lose their next two division games, because after the Broncos tomorrow night, they play Jacksonville, and then they play Tennessee again. And if they lose them two division games and start out 0-4-1 in your division, I think Reich's gone after them two games.
Okay. Lamar, what's your take on it? Because if we look back at Reich's history, Reich joined the team in 2018. He got Andrew Luck for what was essentially the last year of his career, probably one of the best years that Andrew Luck could have had in his career. Then he gets Jacoby Brissett, then he gets Phillip Rivers, he gets Carson Wentz, and now he has Matt Ryan. Do you really think it's Frank Reich's fault that the Colts have just historically been one of those teams? They always have so much talent. They're not going to be bad enough that they get like a top 10 draft pick, but they're going to be just good enough that they either are right on the cusp of missing the playoffs, or they just miss it completely. So they're going to end up with about the 15th to 17th pick. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. If they lose like the next two games or something like that, he might be gone. But he's trying to find a quarterback, and he thought, Matt Ryan got 5 touchdowns. He also got like 5 interceptions. Can't turn the ball over like that. I mean, they thought Matt Ryan was going to be the answer, and so far he's not. But still got a ways to go. I think Jonathan Taylor out tomorrow.
Yep, John
Yep.
Taylor's out tomorrow night.
Yeah,
With a high ankle. Well, I think they reported it was a high ankle sprain, but it's not as bad as they initially thought, right?
Yeah.
so that's going to be tough. And Denver got a tough defense, so
Mm-hmm.
depending on Matt Ryan, throw the ball around, it'd be trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Amon, we kind of talked about it, and I know Chris and I have definitely talked about it. The biggest question mark for the entirety of the Colts was their wide receiver room, and that's still a big question mark to me. As much as I poke fun at our 1-and-1 man Michael Pittman, I make that joke all the time. Are you kind of surprised at this overall production that they're still able to have, despite despite not having a true number one wide receiver, despite having this, they're still a top 10 offense in the league?
I think it is surprising. Just to say that you look at a team that's going with a new quarterback, you don't have the receivers that he's familiar with, or even the talent at receiver that he's familiar with, and that Taylor just hasn't been his best stuff either. So for them to still be a top defense, it shows some promise because it means something in the game plan is working. Something that they're doing is working because you talk about the two strengths of this team last season, the offensive line and their ability to run the football. Well, those two things haven't worked. You said it, Chris. The offensive line just hasn't been what it was last year. And then Jonathan Taylor, he hasn't found his rhythm quite yet. And obviously, you talk about the fact that now he won't be available in this Denver game. I think it puts a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. And the fact that they are a top, again, it just shows you that something is broken. This was never going to be a quick fix for me. I thought it was going to take some time for Matt Ryan to gel in, especially when we talk about Pittman and company. I think when we talk about what to be, I don't think we'll know until week 8, week 9. It's a franchise to not know there, but I think the offense moving in this direction is a positive sign, and I think it takes a little bit of the heat off of Frank Reich.
Yeah, I can see that. I think as long as if he can win maybe tomorrow and maybe win one of these other division games, I think he'll be all right. That'll buy him some time. I think if he loses these next 2 division games, I just don't think Irsay is patient enough. I think not just Reich. I think Ballard could be in trouble too, being the GM.
Yeah.
As well. But, Matt Ryan has some turnovers, but all of them turnovers haven't been his fault either. And like you said, offense is top 10, so they're doing some things right. And if you look, they could very easily be 3-1. I'm not going to say they could have won that Jacksonville game because they just got straight blown off the field by Jacksonville. But they should have won the Texans game. They could have beat Tennessee on Sunday. They had chances to win that game. So their record could very easily be 3-1, and then we wouldn't even be having a conversation about Frank Reich's job.
Yeah. Now here's kind of the other question is, Irsay wants to get rid of Frank. He wants to get rid of Chris Ballard. And there's talks he also wants to get rid of Matt Ryan. But I mean, at that point, where do you really go? Who would you want as a potential head coach? And really the Colts are back to square one and where they've been ever since Luck has retired as far as who do you get to be your next quarterback? Because it's not like there's a big frenzy of free agents out there that, are ripe for the plucking. And the same thing, unless they truly tank and try to get one of the top quarterback prospects like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, kid out of NC State is supposed to be high up there. Maybe even Tua's brother out of Maryland. There's not a whole lot of, really true draft prospects you could go after unless, again, Chris, you and I have talked about it, unless they really want to take a chance on Sam Ehlinger, which I wouldn't be upset with. I liked watching Sam Ehlinger at Texas. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I'd like to. If they get away from Matt Ryan, I want to say if they lose they lose in the next 3 games, which I'm hoping to God they don't, but they lose their next 3 games and they decide to get rid of Matt Ryan. Put Ehlinger in there and see what he can do. That way, you at least know what you have. And if he ain't the guy, then you can move. You can start thinking what you're going to do next year.
Yeah.
And like you said, if he's not the guy, you might finish with the worst enough record that you get a high draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he looked good in preseason. I know it's preseason, but he looked pretty good in preseason.
Yeah,
he did. And like I said, I feel like he's one of those, if they really kind of pushed him and developed him the way that I think they should, And again, it's kind of the same thing. Mike posted it a little bit earlier as far as there's like hypotheticals out there that the Bears might draft Bryce Young next year because they'll have a young low enough draft pick. And I'm like, okay, well, you can. I don't necessarily think Bryce is a better quarterback than Justin, because you're essentially throwing Bryce into the same exact situation that Justin Fields is in right now. You don't have a good O-line, and you don't have any wide receivers really to throw to other than Mooney. And I mean, Mooney isn't bad, but he hasn't done enough for me to say, oh, he's a number one wide receiver. Now your running game is still fantastic, and you have a good defense, and you're in a division that right now is pretty fairly open because the Vikings have been hot and cold. I still have no faith in the Packers. Now the Lions are a little pesky. Hey, I know everybody always, they're like,
hey, if they had a different quarterback, would you have faith in the Packers?
No, actually, no. And I legitimately say that as much as I dislike Aaron Rodgers because I can't stand him. They like offensively, when I looked, I was actually pretty surprised. Green Bay is actually still up there as far as offense goes. But you look at the games that they've played, what were the two teams that they've been able to score the most points on? They were able to score the most points on the Patriots, who had a third string rookie quarterback playing in his first ever NFL game halfway through, took it down to the absolute wire. You were only able to get, 27 points, if I remember right?
27, yeah.
You got 27 points. You were only able to score 14 against Tampa Bay, a real competitor actual team whose defense for the most part has been healthy. And you were only able to score, 7 points against the Vikings, and they dropped, 27 against the Bears, if I remember right, or 34, something like that. So this isn't really a dynamic offensive-driven team. This is just one of those they've
got a good defense.
And honestly, I don't really trust their defense that well because, again, their defense isn't really doing anything to kind of surprise me. Like, again, you're giving up when you face an actual competitive team that's not injured, you're giving up over 20, 25, 27 points a game, and your offense can't keep up with that. So it's even with Aaron, I don't trust that.
Most of their offense is to the running backs.
Yeah.
Even in the passing game.
And it has to be because Aaron doesn't have anybody to throw to. And that to me is what, Aaron Rodgers or not, they can't sustain that. Like, he has to have a talented wide receiver like Davante Adams in order for him to be successful, in my opinion. Yeah, in case you don't know, Lamar, I am a huge Karen Rodgers supporter. Favorite.
Not a quarter in the sweat jar.
I know it's full. I owe like $50 in nickels at this point. But we'll kind of brush around the second topic. We'll come to that at the end because this will lead us into our next topic. So the Raiders were finally able to beat a team. They finally have a win in their belt. And Lamar, I know this is your team. You guys had a good free agency. You guys got Chandler Jones. You guys traded for Davante Adams. You got him. But the production so far has been a surprise more than anything. They crumbled against the Cardinals, come back. They were able to hold the win against, and live out, don't you?
Yeah, I live in California, close enough.
So to you, there's a lot of talks that Josh McDaniels might be fired, or he's on the hot seat if he continues to lose, especially with, they have Derek Carr, you have Waller, you have Renfro, you have Adams, you have Jacobs, you have Jones on the defense. So, I mean, this is a team that has all the potential in the world, but doesn't seem like they can put it together. Do you think McDaniels really deserves to be on the hot seat to kind of start out the season?
I don't think so. I mean, every game they lost, they actually could have won. I mean, like Chris said about the Colts, the Raiders could be 3-1 or even 4-0. I mean, the Cardinal game, they flat out blew that one. Titans game, they can't score in the red zone, have many chances to win that game. The Charger game, if Derek Carr and throw all those interceptions, they win that game. So, I mean, they're 1-3 right now. They just got to figure out how to score in red zone and play fourth quarter football. It's as simple as that. It ain't, I mean, it's not rocket science. Just come to play for 4 quarters. Won't get down and wet the bed for 2 quarters in the second half. All of a sudden you want to play in the second half. Like the game against the Colts. Not the Colts, the Titans. They were 24 points in the first half and then give up a single point in the second half. Same as last week, only gave up 7 points in the second half. They got to start putting it together for 4 quarters. And it starts by scoring points in the red zone, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's what's killing them and leaving these teams in the game. Killed them against the Titans. It almost killed them against the Broncos. Settled for 3.
Yeah. Now, Amon, what do you think? Because I mean, to me, it was a mixture of they almost fumbled it against the Broncos, but luckily, as it's been so far this year, the Broncos are more dysfunctional than what the Raiders have been. Because as we probably all pointed out, I know I pointed it out, that Nathaniel Hackett sucks as a head coach. Like, that man just does not know how to run a football team. That man doesn't really know how to be an offensive coordinator either.
He got that job for one reason.
They got him. They thought Rodgers was coming.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's the only, and you want to know why? Because he knows Aaron can run the offense. He doesn't have to worry about it, and he doesn't really have to manage much of anything. Aaron, you can do it. I don't really care. Here's a better team, better upgrades. And now he gets Russ, which Russ to me, and I don't. What do you think, Amon, as far as the fact that Russ has been very lackluster with his time with the Denver Broncos? He was lackluster last week against the Raiders. Who do you think is the most dysfunctional out of these two, the Broncos or the Raiders?
Yeah, I think you have 2 situations that are kind of similar. You have 2 brand new head coaches. First time head coach, and Josh McDaniels is taking his second go at it. Russ, obviously, this is a new team for him, and say I don't like the word dysfunctional. I think they're gonna figure it out at some point. Russ is too good to not figure it out. I think he needs some time to gel with Jerry Judy. I think when you lose no offense was the offense that they had one thing to readjust to when you have that clear tight end. You even think about Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay. Robert Tonyan saw a lot of balls go his way now. Is him calling those plays? No, it's Aaron Rodgers doing it, but you still have to feel that there's some kind of influence he's taking away from that system. I think dysfunctional might not be what I would use to try and push happening for other teams. But I think the team that looks worse right now, I think we figure it out. I think if you're ready, figuring out, okay, we're going to be a play action team. We're going to run the ball. We don't need to get distracted by all the skills at the receiver tight end position. We set up the run, Jalen Waller one down the field, and let Hunter Renfrow be our guy just consume the middle. So I think both teams will move in the right direction. I don't think it's time to panic when if you're the Broncos or the Raiders.
Yeah. Now, Chris, to you, since we brought up the Colts and we brought up Frank Reich being on the hot seat, again, there's a lot of talks that Josh McDaniels might be. Out of the 2, who do you think would get cut first as far as, our first head coaching fire in the NFL?
Out of McDaniels and Reich? I'm going to say Reich just because I think I don't think Jim Irsay's that patient. I think after the last couple of years, especially after last year, they went and got Wentz, who Reich, I think, really stuck his neck out there for him. And Irsay wasn't happy with that. So I think Reich, plus McDaniels just got there. I think they just need a little bit of time, kind of like what Amon said, for Derek Carr and McDaniels get on the same page with the play calling and getting used to that offense. I think people are forgetting this is a whole new offense. Derek Carr's has to learn again. He hadn't had the same coach year after year for a while. So I would say probably Reich is a little more trouble just because I think Irsay, since it's been 2 or 3 years with Reich, is getting a little more impatient, where I think maybe the Raiders might be a little more patient since McDaniels just got there.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I look at the Raiders, it's kind of like the Chargers as far as like an in-division thing. These are 2 teams that are stacked top to bottom as far as, talent goes. They've got the quarterbacks, they've got the running backs, they have the wide receiver, all of it. And the other bad part is they're in the same division together, so they're going to beat the snot out of each other. On top of, you have Kansas City in the division. Then you have Denver kind of lying in wake too. And, this is one of those divisions that has kind of underperformed a little bit, because I just want to say, as a Dallas fan, the NFC East is currently sitting at 11-5.
Oh man.
Just want to throw it out there. We're not the NFC
When's the
least.
last time the NFC East has had one of the best division records?
No, not in a long time. Not in a long time. So we're relishing it while we got it now.
It'll balance out come playoff time. Sorry.
Oh, it will. Oh, 1,000% it will. It'll balance out. Don't worry. But yeah, this has been one of those that when I heard the Frank Reich thing, I'm like, I don't really know why. I've never understood why you fire a coach midway during a season. Like, if the season starts out bad and then you're like, okay, time to fire him, it's not necessarily good to have a regime change. I mean, Lamar, he got the benefit at least last year. Rick Bisaccia for the special teams coach took over and actually did really well with the Raiders. But he had also been a part of the Raiders organization for a long time. You look at Indy, if they fire Reich right now, the offensive coordinator is not the same, is it? If I remember right.
No.
The offensive
defensive coordinator is new as well.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus is gone, so Gus Bradley is the new defensive coordinator. So it's like, okay, not only are you have two new coordinators in with your coach, but if you fire Reich, okay, now you have to learn a completely and totally new system, new regime, new change. And same with the Raiders. This is Josh McDaniels' first year with the Raiders. 4 games in, they're already talking about firing him. It's like, okay, well, he's already got a new system. You don't even have your special teams coach that you had because now he's in Green Bay. And you're like, okay, well, now we're going to fire the guy that, we decided to go out and get all the guys that he wanted us to get to, basically help him, get established. So it's kind of crazy that this is how the first couple of weeks have started out for the NFL, and started out for 2 teams that I think most everybody kind of had not necessarily locked into the playoffs, but more than likely going to be vying for a playoff spot. But we are in the benefit. It's still early enough in the season, still early enough in the year. We don't really have to worry about that too much, because obviously things can change as it goes on. And we'll move on to our last topic of the night, and that is the Lions, the Jets, the Falcons, and the Jags all finished terribly last year, as we all know. But even though they're not exactly, sitting here with 4-0 records, they've actually probably shown some of the most improvement out of most of the NFL teams that are out there right now. The Jags have stayed in it for the most part in the game against Philly. They actually had a 14-0 lead against them.
One man for 4 interceptions, they might have won that game.
Exactly. So they stuck it out against the Eagles for majority of the game. The Lions have the number 1 offense in the NFL right now. I can't believe I'm saying that. The Lions and Jared Goff have the number 1 offense in the NFL. Marcus Mariota and the Falcons have been competitive. They beat the Browns, and then they also almost beat the Rams, and then they beat the Seahawks, if I remember right. And then, of course, the Jets with the MILF Hunter now back of Zach Wilson. They beat the Browns in an upset, and of course, they just beat the Steelers for only the second time in franchise history at home, which is a testament to how good Pittsburgh was and has been over the years, and how bad the Jets have been over the years. Amon, I'll start with you. Out of those teams, who has shown you the most improvement so far that you think, okay, they don't have to be a playoff team. They could be, they're maybe like this close. They just need a couple more pieces to get them over the hump.
It's tough. There's 2 to stick out. I'm gonna go Jacksonville here, and I think it's just because of the fact that you talk about everything that happened in the offseason with and what was going on internally. I think for a team to kind of turn around the way they have, I didn't think their offseason was special. Like, I overpaid Christian Kirk. I was like, okay, great, you have number 3 playing number 1. He's producing at a really high level. Paid and it's working out. They let Miles Jack go, and then with their number 1 overall pick, after the guy, I was like, drafted him over Hutchinson. Interesting. And while he hasn't been a huge impact guy yet, he makes some plays. Like, he's been good. Lamar's starting to come through, and I think them adding Doug Peterson was probably their best offseason. And things are moving in the right direction. It seems in every single game, you mentioned it, they're competitive. They had a 14-up lead on the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, if Lawrence doesn't make one of those interceptions, you're talking about a whole different story. You might not have an undefeated team left, and the 72 Dolphins are popping champagne again. So I think when you talk about the Jaguars, everything they went through this offseason, and for Lawrence to be taking steps forward, Christian Kirk to be taking steps forward, for the defense that I thought lost a big piece in Miles Jack to be taking steps forward, it's really good signs for them. Do they end up winning the division? They could, because I don't know where the Colts are going to be. I don't know where the Titans are going to be. And the Texans seem to be, one of the teams that are going to be vying for a top 2 pick. They could easily win this division, and I think it's a really good time for them to start moving this direction now while Trevor Lawrence is still on this rookie deal.
Okay. Lamar, what about you? Because like I said, a lot of these teams, they've shown promise. They've kind of upset teams that at least I didn't expect for them to beat. Like, I didn't expect the Jets to beat the Browns, even with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. I didn't expect, the Jets to upset the Steelers, with or without Zach Wilson or not. So, to you, who do you think has made the biggest surprise? Or even if it's another team other than those 4, who has kind of surprised you the most so far this season as far as improving goes?
Got to go with the Jags as well. I mean, they got a horrible general manager in Trent Baalke, but he made a good coaching hire. So
yes, he did.
Helps him out. Also overpaid for some players, but when you're a team that ain't been winning for years, you got to overpay. It is what it is. The Raiders been there many times, so I know it. But the players they were paid for, they're producing right now. Zay Jones. One thing about Zay Jones, he gonna come to work and work hard to put in extra work. So I wouldn't mind overpaying for a player that's actually gonna come to work and come to play every day. But yeah, got Trevor Lawrence, and they're running the ball. Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good and look like they're on the right track. See if they can surprise everybody and at least compete in that division this year.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, what about you? Because, I mean, do you feel like the Jags are the most improved? And I know that'd probably be hard because I know you're a Colts fan, and right now the Jags sit on top of the AFC South. And I don't think anybody, if you would have asked them 5 weeks ago, hey, the Jags are going to be sitting on top of the AFC South at one point, I don't think anybody would have ever believed you at any point.
No, I would probably say the Jags as well. I'd put the Lions right up there with the Jags. But I think the Lions started to show a little bit signs of improving last year. I think Dan Campbell's doing a good job there. Where the Jags, they were just a pure dumpster fire last year, and Trevor Lawrence didn't look good at all last year. Yeah. And as quick as he's picked up Peterson's system and the way that I would have expected them to be better later in the year than I did at the beginning. And for them to come out to the season the way they have, I think it's really surprising. So I'd have to go with the Jags because I didn't think Trevor Lawrence would look as good. I thought you'd see an improvement in them with Peterson because Doug Peterson's a lot better coach than what they had. Yeah. But I didn't think you might see it in the first few games. I thought maybe they might have some problems like the Raiders and some of these other teams are having with new coaches where it takes a little time to get that chemistry. But they've came out of the gates with pretty good chemistry.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I think we're all in agreement. I think the Jags have probably been the most improved. I really liked the Doug Peterson hire, especially after Urban left, because it's like, all right, as much as I wanted Urban to succeed, having watched him in college, it was like, all right, I kind of want him to be able to succeed. He can go to Jacksonville, a lot of low expectations. And the fact that it was such a dumpster fire in his for like, nope, there's too much on the locker room, not enough happening on the field, to justify us keeping you. It was time that he already got the boot. So I liked the Doug Peterson hire. I think everybody agrees Christian Kirk getting paid number 1 receiver money is a little crazy. But like Lamar said, Zay Jones has obviously proved like, hey, I might not be a number 1, but I'm going to be consistent for you guys, and I'm going to show that I was a good pickup and I was a good pay for you guys to do. I do think my favorite though has to be the Lions. They've drafted really well. I think Dan Campbell is one of those coaches the players all respect, and most of his coaching staff are all former players as well. And I think that shows on the field with their production. And he's kind of revitalized Jared Goff's career because, I mean, he's having a really good year. They're competitive in games, and this is a guy that everybody said, okay, well, once he leaves Sean McVay, it's pretty much over for Jared Goff in the NFL. And I almost thought that last year. And then Dan Campbell said, no, give me a minute. Let me build some stuff around here. Let us use advantage of those Matt Stafford picks, and we'll go from there. But no, I definitely think the Jags and the Lions.
If the Lions defense was just a little bit better, I mean, they'd have won some of them games that they've lost this year. They're scoring like 38 points a game, but they're giving up 38 to 40 points a game.
Yeah. And they said, ironically, the last team to have done that was the 2000 St. Louis Rams, who had the number 1 offense and the 32nd ranked defense was the Rams. So who knows? I mean, Detroit, if they can get it figured out, or if they can at least have the ball last, then they'll be good to go. And then one last topic I do want to throw out there because it just kind of popped into my head. What do we think about the whole AB situation? Like, he, in case nobody knows, he was at a hotel in Dubai, if I remember correctly. Shoved his rear end in somebody's face, pulled his fun boy out and exposed himself to people, and then actually posted a photo with him and Giselle, Tom Brady's possible future ex-wife. That's yet to be determined as we speak currently. But Chris, do you think AB now ever has a chance of coming back in the NFL? Like Tom Brady was kind of, to me, AB's last chance. Like, stuck his neck out for him, let him live with him for a while. Did everything he could. Obviously, we know the whole being in New York, taking his uniform off during the game, making a fool of himself. Do you think this really is AB's done? He's never coming back into the NFL, even if he tries his absolute hardest.
I do think he's probably done, which I didn't think he had a real great chance of getting back in anyway with all the other stuff he's already done. But when you're doing this stuff and you're showing the teams that you still haven't fixed your problems or whatever, if he has mental problems or if it's just he needs to grow up, one of the two. But he's not showing the team behavior that's going to make a team want to take a chance on you. And I mean, and now you're burning bridges with Tom Brady, which was one of the last guys that stuck his neck out for you. I mean, he got you in New England, and he was the only reason you even got in Tampa Bay to get a shot. So, and now you're going to burn that bridge. I would say he's probably done in the NFL.
Yeah, Lamar, what do you think? Do you think any team that maybe is wide receiver, needy, would even like entertain giving him a call as far as, okay, AB, we just need you for like these last couple of games of the season, And kind of like Chris said, I think once you burn the bridge with Tom Brady, that removes any potential chance of you coming back to the Buccaneers, at least, because the Buccaneers need wide receiver help. Cole Beasley just retired today. Godwin's out. They don't have Gronk. Evans is back, but again, the injuries and the consistency is what's really hurting the Buccaneers. So, to you, did AB blow his last chance of being able to be back in the NFL?
Yeah, he blew it. I mean, ain't nobody gonna want that unstable person like that in their locker room. Tear their whole locker room apart and kill a whole season. Kudos to the Steelers for catching it early and getting rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Found the sucker in the Raiders and traded to there and good job, Raiders, for getting rid of him, not putting up with it, just getting rid of him. Like, dude, you gotta go. But he ended up getting a Super Bowl ring out of it, so. But he's done in the NFL, I believe. Might go play in XFL or something if you want to play.
Oof. Maybe.
They might not want him there either.
Probably not. If I'm any team, even if I'm like the fan control football league where TO's playing at like 100, I don't know if I'd be like, yeah, man, come on, we got this. Ain't no big deal. Amon, are you kind of the general consensus? You think AB's done, that there's no redemption at this point? Like, he's blown every single chance you got to make a roster and to even potentially play football again.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cut and dry at this point. I don't think there's really anybody who feels Antonio Brown is going to be able to come back into the NFL. And it's not like this is the first time offenses. I think it's just a pattern of behavior. And once it becomes a pattern of behavior, people know, okay, I'm not going to do with this guy. I think, the bigger thing for me is, Antonio Brown's camp, where are you? Where are you saying, AB, relax. Like, You don't need to be doing this. Sometimes you got to have this tough conversations with people. You don't need to post Giselle Bundchen on your Instagram with the caption. You don't need to be doing this and that. But you need to be doing all this you're doing. You don't want to play football anymore. That's fine. But you can keep yourself relevant without screwing up everything in your life. And I don't know. I just would hope and wish that someone in ABC would say, maybe we gotta fix. We gotta rethink everything we're doing because what you're doing is not right.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad because, like Lamar said, when you saw him in Pittsburgh, it was like, man, he's one heck of a wide receiver. He led the league so many different times in receiving yards. Statistically, he was great. And I know everybody says after the hit from Burfict that it changed him. It's like, I don't know. Kind of like Lamar said, the Steelers had him for years. It's like, I don't know if it was necessarily, after that hit he did that, or if he started to, kind of notice his notoriety and his celebrity status of, okay, well, now I'm at this point. Now I can kind of show my true colors of who I am and, literally make an ass of himself, unfortunately. But gents, I think that's pretty much everything I got, unless you guys have anything that you want to talk about real quick before we head out. No? All right. Well, guys, it was a great show. I hope everybody enjoyed watching. Lamar, appreciate you being on, man. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself on first show here for ASAP. Hopefully many more to come after this. Gonzo, appreciate you being on here as always. Always a blast talking with you, hanging out with you. Still throws me off that you shave, man. I'm used to
I know.
Fully bearded.
I know. For my first show back, I don't see the Chris beard. I was upset.
First time I've shaved in about 2 years. So it was just time for something different.
Hey, I'm the same way. I didn't shave at all when I first got out, and then I shaved. What was it, like beginning of July-ish? I was kind of like, man, I was loving having facial hair, and then I shaved, and I was like, nope, I got to grow it back out. I can't do it. Can't do it.
I don't know if I'll let it get as long as it was, but I'm gonna let it grow some because now I look too much like my son.
No, really?
We look just alike with what I shave. It's crazy. Like, I need to let it grow back out a little bit.
Yeah. And then I see Amon starting to grow the hair back out a little bit. Appreciate you being back on as well. Amon, I know you've been busy doing cricket leagues all across the U.S. I'm glad that you haven't forgot us little people since your notoriety has started to take off.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
First time
but there's Zapatec is coming on Sunday. I'm excited. The Zapatec is back.
First time I've seen him on in a long time.
I know.
It's been a minute.
You should have seen it. He even cut his hair. We were like, how did you cut the long, luscious locks that you had, man? Like, how could you do it?
I'm getting another haircut soon. I think it's about that time. So.
Oof. See, I'm the opposite. I'm about to try to look homeless. Like, I'm growing hair out. Like, I got the sides starting to grow out a little bit. I got the top growing out long as I can. I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to look homeless.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, everybody, again, appreciate you guys watching. Please check out all the shows we got here on ASAP. You'll see Chris on pretty much all of them. Like I said, Chris's back hurts from having to carry the
back
network.
At 9 o'clock with the Colts and Broncos preview show with Nathaniel McCourt.
Exactly. You can catch him on. You'll catch him on here on the network here and there. And then, like I said, hopefully we'll get Lamar on. Probably see a lot of Lamar when it comes on to basketball season, as he is a Lakers fan. And I know NBA will be really interesting, kind of see how the Lakers do, how they rebound, and where they go from here. But again, everybody, I appreciate it, and we will see y'all soon.